Hey everyone, I've got some huge news to share with you. In the last 90 days, 79.4% of our audience came from viewers and listeners that are not subscribed to this channel. There's research that shows that if you want to create a habit, make it easy to access. By hitting the subscribe button, you're creating a habit of learning how to be happier, healthier, and more healed. This would also mean the absolute world to me and help us make better, bigger, brighter content for you and the world. Subscribe right now.
The #1 health and wellness podcast.
Jay Shetty.
Jay Shetty.
The one, the only Jay Shetty.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the #1 health podcast in the world. Thanks to each and every one of you who come back every week to become happier, healthier, and more healed. You know that I love diving into the minds of people I find fascinating, to dive into how people are creative, how people become conscious, and how people create things that the world gets excited about. I think I've always been a student of life and a student of people's journeys. And here we get to go back in time and find out what those key moments were in people's lives. Today's guest is someone that I've been dying to have on the show. I'm so excited that he's here in the studio. I've been feeling his energy and vibe already. I'm excited to share it with you all. I'm speaking about the one and only Benny Blanco, record producer, songwriter, artist, actor, record executive, and cookbook author. I'll have you know, I'll tell you about that in a second. Benny has contributed to the sale of hundreds of millions of albums worldwide through his work with some of your favorite artists, including Ed Sheeran, SZA, Justin Bieber, Rihanna, Katy Perry, The Weeknd, Maroon 5, Juice WRLD, Sia, and many more. As a solo artist, Benny has released 2 albums, Friends Keep Secrets and Friends Keep Secrets 2, that have been streamed more than 11 billion times to date and have featured multiple platinum hits. Benny made his TV debut playing a fictionalized version of himself on the FFX series Dave with Little Dicky. If you haven't seen it, that episode's brilliant. Benny's most recent project is his first cookbook, Open Wide. You can get it right now. We'll be diving into that as well. Welcome to the show, Benny Blanco.
Wow, that was so cool. I want you to walk around with me all the time and say this. I understand. I get why you're the #1 podcast for health. When you were talking, my jaw was dropped. I was just mesmerized by everything you
Benny,
were saying.
I want to do the introduction now. Every time you go on stage, every time you're there, it has to be, you know.
I know. I got to come up with one for you.
Yeah.
I'd be like, perfect skin, beautiful eyes, wavy hair.
You're talking about yourself.
No, I'm talking about you, baby.
Same thing. We both got
we're
curly
same.
hair.
We're interchangeable.
We got curly hair. We got colored eyes. You got good skin.
Okay.
I love it. Benny, it's such a joy to have you here. And I'm excited to dive into everything that I was just talking about. But when I'm sitting with someone like you who, you know, creativity is at your fingertips, it's kind of embedded into your whole life. I'm always intrigued. What's your earliest childhood memory of being creative? Like, do you remember the first thing you put together? You were just telling me you even had this shirt made that you're wearing today. Like, what was one of the first things you remember saying, oh, wow, I did something as a kid?
Okay, here's what I really remember.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the luxury of having like insane musical instruments at my fingertips and recording studios. And I was from the middle of nowhere. So my brother had a boombox, an old school boombox, and I had a smaller old school boombox. And I remember my earliest memories at I'm probably like 5 or 6. And I remember realizing that music, when I first heard music, I always thought that the musician was at the radio station singing the song, and I was like, how do they keep coming back to the station? I didn't even understand how music was created. But somewhere very early, I figured out that it was like a multi-track situation. And I had a boombox, and I would record like me like hitting like this into the boombox, okay? Then I would press play on that one, and then I would do the next thing on the other boombox and record into that one. And I would keep going back and forth until I created like a track. I guess I was creating like my own like 8-track and multi-track of layering things. And I didn't even know what it was, but I was just so excited that I was doing it. And my whole career has been a version of that. Like I have no training. I'm not good at anything. I'm really I know people are like, oh, you're being humble. I'm really not great at anything. I have like a ultimate will to get things done. Like I'm like, this will happen. But no, it's just, I'm always trial and error. And I always tell people are always just like, well, how did you do this? How did you? And I'm like, honestly, like just going in and I call it making a mess. I like to go in and throw a bunch of shit around the room, throw paint at everything. And then we worry about cleaning it up later. But maybe a few of those things just happen to land correctly. And I just keep doing that until everything fully lands where I want it to. And I'm just playing cleanup around the sides.
That's a beautiful way of describing the process. But what gave you that? Where does that will or that confidence come from? Because I think a lot of people are scared of creating a mess or scared of things not sticking, so they never try. Whereas it sounds like you're the opposite, where you're like, well, I don't care if it doesn't try. I'm willing to give it a go. Where does that inner confidence, that inner ability to say, hey, it's okay, come from?
I don't care about failure at all. I don't care. And I never did. I think when I was younger, I didn't understand what failure was. Like when you're 6, when you're 7, when you're 12, there's not many people to let down. You know what I mean? You let down Timmy at school. He's your friend. Sorry, Timmy. But you're not thinking about that. And I just remember from the beginning, like my mom was like, I wanted to drop out of school. And my mom was raising me alone, and I was probably 15, 16 at the time. And I was like, Mom, I know what I want to do. She's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, the music stuff. Like, I'm so into it. And I know, and I looked at her and I go, I know I'm going to be the biggest in the world. And she was just like, what do you, and I've asked my mom like later in life, like, how did you like trust me in my journey? And she always said that she had dreams that she never got to try in her life. And a lot of people are just way too scared to take the jump. A lot of people may have, I'm sure everyone in this room, anyone listening has a little something where they're like, oh, I really like that. But they're scared. They're like, I want to post videos of me cooking online. No one will like it. My friends will make fun of me. I sing in the shower. Like no. Because we're taught to just follow suit and do whatever you're supposed to do. You report to your boss, but it doesn't have to be like that. Like if you want to try to be like a musician, an entrepreneur, whatever, it's scary. And like, I'm sure you've had moments like that where you're like, yo, what am I doing? But if you do try, I believe that if you keep pushing yourself and you keep trying, you're going to succeed. And I always tell people this, it may not be in what you start with, Like when I started, I thought I was going to be the biggest rap artist in the world. And am I a rapper now? No. And then I moved into producing, and then I moved into songwriting, and then it's come full circle now where I'm like an artist of some sorts again. And I think you just jump in and just try something. Just try, and who cares? If you're gonna fail, who cares if you fail? I don't understand. That's the thing I don't understand. It's just, you just get up and you do it again. I have amnesia the second I fail. I'm like, the next day I wake up, I'm like, all right, let's do it again.
That's an amazing mindset. So we share something in common already. We both grew up wanting to be famous rappers.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
No.
That was like my passion, like poetry, spoken word, writing lyrics. Like all I listened to was hip hop and rap growing up. Like if you asked me at 16 years old what I wanted to be, that's what I wanted to be. And it's so interesting because today I feel I use the same skills that I wanted to use then, but in a completely different way.
Yeah.
I still write. I write books instead of records. Yeah. I teach meditation, which includes music. It includes cadence. It includes rhyme often, but not in the way that a rapper would. Yeah. And I'm using spoken word constantly to get messages out into the world, but in a different way. And so I love what you just said about that idea of how you actually may succeed, but in a way completely different to what you originally dreamed of.
I hope it goes full circle for you. I need to hear the Jay Shetty rap tape. What was your rap name?
Oh God, I don't know if I need to go that far.
Okay.
It was embarrassing, but I'll tell you later.
Okay.
I'll tell you privately. Yeah.
Tell me later.
I'll tell you privately.
Is Jay Shetty your real name?
Yes.
It's that's the perfect rap.
Is
man.
it?
Yeah, Jay Shetty sounds like a fire rapper.
Really?
Yeah, from like
All right.
East London.
Okay. I'm from North London, so not far.
All right.
Yeah, not far. Okay, cool. I like it. I like it. But no, I really appreciate what you're saying there. And I think that amnesia to failure, wow, like I love that idea of having amnesia with failure. Can you give me a time, was that always the case, or was there a failure that like did kind of pierce that veil? It never has. I can see from your face.
No, I remember when I was going to quit music one time right before I made it, my mentor passed away. He took his own life, and I was really young. It was one of my best friends, and I'm probably like 18. And I remember like sitting in my bed, and I was like crying. I like didn't understand. It was one of the first times that somebody who wasn't supposed to die died. I've had like, I had lost my grandmother and lost my grandfather, but it was like the first time in my life where like someone that like I really knew and really touched me, and I talked to them the day before they died. And it's like, I remember like that hitting me like so hard in a way that I didn't know was even possible. Like, I'd been sad. But I remember sitting there in bed, and I was just like, I'm just going to quit. I was like, I got to quit making music. And then in that very same moment, like my head flipped, and I was just like, no, you can't. You got to like take on what this dude started. Because he was also a musician, and he didn't get he was well known, and he was a hero to me, but he didn't get where I think he deserved to. And I remember being like, I gotta do this. Like, I gotta, like, he would want me to be doing this. And that was like the only time where it wasn't even failure. It was like the only time where I like really questioned things. But don't get me wrong. Every time I do something good in life, I'm questioning. But it's like a different feeling. I don't know if you have this, but I'll have a number one song. It's the biggest song in the whole world. And I'll like look in the mirror and I'll be like, oh, that's the last one. Like, definitely not going to have another number one song again. Not saying I'm like scared of the failure. I'm just like, oh, that's just like the last one. That's what I did. Or something really good will happen in my life. And I'm like, oh, I'll never recreate that again. But in the same breath, I'm like, let's go. Like, I'm like, let's keep rolling, And I've tried to do this thing lately. In the last like 5 or 10 years, where I really like take in my achievements. Because for a while, I never thought of them. I would just keep going. Like when it was time, they'd be like, oh, your song's number one. I'd be like, okay, that's cool. What are we doing next week? And I figured out like, it's okay to do that. It's okay to like take a breath and be like, yo, we just did this shit. Like, this is tight. Like, we did this. This is great. And yeah, I'm trying to do that more. And failure, like, no, I've never had one of those times, because whenever I do fail, I'll sit and I'll sit there and I'll be like, this didn't work how I wanted it to. But so many times have been the opposite, where I was like, this will never work. And then it's big. So it's like, I feel like it always evens out. Yeah. And you only have one other choice. It's like, your only choice is just to keep going. What are you supposed to do? Just be like, oh, it didn't work. No, get up and you do it again.
Yeah, I've got so many questions. I want to dive into so much that you said. So, rewinding with your mentor, how did you first, and I'm so sorry to hear, thank you for sharing with us, such a challenging event. And I lost my mentor 4 years ago. He passed away from stage 4 brain cancer during the pandemic. So I couldn't go back to see him because I couldn't take a flight. And so I couldn't be at his funeral. So, it was super rough for me. It was more recent, but how did you meet your mentor, and how did you form a bond? I think a lot of successful people have mentors, they have guides, they have teachers, they have coaches. But then sometimes when you're listening to a conversation, you're like, I want someone to be my mentor, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how to find them. Like, what does that mean? Like, how did you connect?
I've had so many mentors. I have mentors every day. I'm a mentor to people, but sometimes my mentees are my mentor. Like, you always got to be open to just listening and learning. Every day I learn something. I was in the studio yesterday with a guy who was one of my mentees. Like, the way I got to tell you that story later. That's insane. I'll go to that. I'll tell that after. First one is, I met my mentor. This is when he was like my second or third mentor. I met a lot of my really important mentors in my life when I was about 13. I was a musician. I was traveling for music at the time. I had gotten like some buzz, and MySpace was a thing.
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember MySpace.
And I had somehow created a profile where I had a bunch of followers. Okay. So I don't even remember how I did it, but I was a kid. I used to do it in the library at school. And there was this guy, he was a producer. I was obsessed with him. I messaged him, the equivalent of DM today.
Yeah.
And I remember messaging him, and I was like, I love your stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then no response. And I was like, oh, I love you, like, please, blah, blah, blah. No response. Then I saw, like, a few weeks later, he was advertising. He was like, I have studio time available. It's like, $500 or something. And I remember just being like, okay, the only way I'm going to meet this guy is if I get the studio time. So I say, I'm interested in the studio time. He says, great, come to New York and meet me here. He had no idea where I was. I drove to New York, and we drove like 4 hours to New York. I get to New York. I get in with him. The first thing I say is, I'm like, I don't really need studio time. I just want to talk to you. Please, I'll do anything. I just want to work with you. I'll do whatever you say. But then he was just like, this was insane. He said, I'm leaving this weekend. I need my studio booked the whole weekend. It's $850 for the 2 days. You need to book it. If you can book it, I'll let you work for me.
Wow.
I called every single person I know. I spent I had like a few $100. Then like I would like beg my friends for money. I had like knew a few rappers at the time that wanted studio time. And I like figured it out. And he was just like, he got back. I just did it in the nick of time. And he was just like, all right, you can work. You start next week. And I would drive up every weekend from Virginia to work with him when I was like 16, 17. And we created this bond, and it was like he was tough on me. It was like he was like not an easy guy. Like I remember like I walked in and I had a hard drive filled with all of my music, okay, everything I had been making. And he like took it, he listened to it, he ejected it, and then he threw it out the window. He threw my hard drive out the window, broke into a million pieces, no more hard drive. And he was like, not good enough, start again. What? And it was like, yeah, he was like super sensei. It was like Karate Kid. And I like hated him in the moments for it. But he taught me so many things that like I learned, and taught me things not to do as a mentor. And it was a really special time. And now I just want to jump to this. Okay.
Yeah, please. Yeah, go on. I love it. Let it flow.
So I'm, this is, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now, maybe 8 years ago. And I'm playing poker at a friend's house. And my friend puts me on her story, her Instagram story. And the next day she comes to me and she said, hey, my friend's son saw you on my story, and apparently you're like a big deal in music. And she was just like, you have to have him come work for you. And I was like, what? She was like, yeah, you have to have him come work for you. I was like, I don't need anyone else. I already have assistants, interns. And they were like, no, you have to. And this lady is like you don't get to have a choice. So I was like, all right, I'll meet him. So this kid comes in. He's 15 years old. He's like, like everything, like he's just so excited. And he like was so sweet, and he reminded me of me when I was a kid. He was like, I'll do anything, I'll work for you, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, come work for me. He comes and works for me. I still like am spending a lot of time in New York at the time. And so I don't see him. He's just like building a studio for me, and has never even met me besides that one day.
Wow.
But he does it for like a year. Then like I finally come back to LA, and I'm like, all right, you ready to come into some recording studios? And he was like, yeah. I'm so excited. So like, first week, first 3 sessions, his first session is The Weeknd. His second section is Travis Scott. And like his third session was like Maroon 5. So it's like he's getting thrown into it. So I remember we're at the first session, and I'm just like, be cool, blah, blah, blah. It's The Weeknd. And The Weeknd's in there, and we're like all in a room, and we're just like singing into microphones, like we're chilling. And he's like, I know his mind's blown. Weeknd's his favorite artist at the time. And I remember when no one's looking, he like sneaks a picture and he accidentally has his flash on. So it goes, and it has the noise too. And so it was like, and when it did it, he went, and he threw his phone. and somehow The Weeknd didn't notice. And like, I pulled him aside after, and I'm like, dude, you can't do that. Blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, he's in high school. And I say, hey, I was in the middle of making Ed Sheeran's Divide album. And I was producing the whole thing. And I was like, I need some help on the road. If I talk to your school and get you off, will you come? And he was like, yeah, of course. Took him on the road for like 2 weeks. Mine was blown. Then, he starts going to NYU Clive Davis School of Music. And I have another opportunity. I talk to his teachers. I take him on the road for like a month. We're on tour with Halsey. Then he's coming back to work for me now, okay? We've never talked about him making music at all. And we're sitting there one day. It's late at night. And he said, my therapist said he's going to stop working with me if I don't play you my music. I said, what do you mean you make music? And he's like, yeah, I make music. I was like, why didn't you ever play it for me? He's like, I was so scared. I was trying to get better, blah, blah, blah. He plays me some songs. They're terrible. They're awful. But like, I can hear something in him. And I know he's so, in music, so much of it is like getting an artist to feel comfortable, getting them to believe, getting them to, so much of it is your personality. And he had that. He had the it factor. I saw when he was with like artists, he knew how to talk to them. He knew how to make them feel good, just like getting them food, everything. And he spent years just seeing how I did it with artists. And I decided to sign him. I was like, I'm going to sign you. And he went on this journey, and now he's one of the biggest music producers in the world. I mean, last year he won, best record at the Grammys. He's had like 5 or 10 number one records. And it's like, this guy he was so humble. He was 15 years old. Now he's like probably 26, 27. And he just went on the journey. He knew when his time was, and he went in and he did it. And it was just like, I always tell people, you just got to stick through it. You got to stick around, And when I first signed him, it wasn't working for him. It took him like a few years for it really to like connect. And he's just like, it's such a fun story for me.
That's a brilliant story.
Yeah. And I've been fortunate enough to have that a few different times in my life with people. And it was so cool because I had that experience, and we're all, to pay it forward is just.
Yeah, the intern applications to the Benny Blanco School of Music just went through the roof. Like now the amount Reed's gonna get hit up this whole week, and dude, I love that. No, it's beautiful to hear that, and also what I love about that message is when your mentor throws your hard drive outside the window. Like it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm never going back.
Yeah,
he's crazy. Like I'm never going back. Yeah. It's like whiplash.
Oh yeah,
right. Like
that was my life. I was cleaning toilets with a toothbrush. Like that was my real life.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of when you were describing it. I felt exactly like that. I'm thinking, but how do you show up again and recognize this value? Because I think now we're in a place as well where it's like if something like that happened, we'd be like, oh no, get out of there. It's
I know. It did change a little bit. Like
you wouldn't do that. That's what I mean. You wouldn't throw someone's hard drive.
No, I would never do those type of things. I'm just like not that type of person. I'm not like a yelling person. I'm not like it's just like that's not my way of communication. Like if I was like sad about something, I'd be like, man, I think it's like probably almost worse. Like I'd be like, why did you do that? You know what I mean?
I go quiet.
Yeah. Or I'd be like, if you're ever like in in an argument in a relationship, like I'm not a yeller. I'm like oh man, like I wish it was different. And I like can't even find the words usually at the beginning. And I think that's how I am. And I think like I really learned that you don't have to do that stuff. It worked for me. It got me to where I am, but it's like you can you can be really positive. You can be a good influence on someone. You don't have to like, you can be hard on someone. Like I'm definitely like, I was definitely hard on the guy I was talking about, Blake. I was tough on him, but I was never like, I would never be mean. I would never like, there's no reason to do that. And what made me keep going back, I don't know, sheer just will and drive like that's like, I just was like, what they're trying, that's what they're trying to do. They want me to quit. They want me to, and like, I don't know. I don't know why I do it. And I wonder, sometimes I sit in bed and I'm like, why am I still working like so hard? Like I still work like I've never done a thing in my life. Like I'm still wake up every morning. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do this, and then I swear I'm gonna get this thing. And that's why I try to do different things that I'm not necessarily great at not that I'm not great at, but that I don't have, in music, I can go in, I can work with anyone, I can do this. But like making a cookbook, being in a TV show, I've never done these things. So it's like very interesting to me to start at the bottom again and just like try to work my way up.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love the climb. Like that's my favorite part about life.
Yeah.
Even everything, like in a relationship, when you meet that person at the very beginning and it's like, oh, I gotta like make my way into their heart and they have to make their way into mine. And it's just all about, I don't know, getting there is always the best. And then when you're there, I'm just like, all right. What else can I want to get some, you know what I mean? Like, so when you're like, you do the music stuff and you get there and you're like, I think the only thing where you get there and it just keeps getting better is in a relationship with someone. I think that's like the only time you get there and you're like, okay, this is cool. Like, but when every other time I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, let's go.
I'll be honest, managing money has always been something I've had to stay mindful about. It feels like everywhere you turn, someone's trying to make you spend. That's where Acorns comes in. Acorns is a financial wellness app that makes it easy to start saving and investing for your future. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that matches you and your money goals. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you get started with the spare money you've got right now, even if all you've got is spare change. Sign up now and join the over 13 million all-time customers who have already saved and invested over $22 billion with Acorns. Plus, Acorns will boost your new account with a $20 bonus investment. Offer available at acorns.com/purpose. That's acorns.com/PURPOSE to get your $20 bonus investment today. Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 6 compensation provided. Investment involves risk. Acorns Advisors LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/purpose.
I'm Cheryl Swoops, WNBA champ, 3-time Olympian, and Basketball Hall of Famer. I'm a mom and I'm a woman.
I'm Tarika Foster Brasby, journalist, sports reporter, basketball analyst, a wife, and I'm also a woman.
And on our new podcast, we're talking about the real obstacles women face day to day.
See, athlete or not, we all know it takes a lot as women to be at the top of our game.
We want to share those stories about balancing work and relationships, motherhood, career shifts. You know, just all the shit we go through.
Because no matter who you are, there are levels to what we experience as women.
And T and I, well, we have no problem going there.
Listen to Levels to This with Cheryl Swoops and Tarika Foster Brasby, an iHeart Women's Sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment. You can find us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey y'all, Nimini here. I'm the host of a brand new history podcast for kids and families called Historical Records. Executive produced by Questlove, The Story Pirates, and John Glickman, Historical Records brings history to life through hip-hop.
Smash, slam, another one gone. Bash, bam, another one gone. The crack of the bat and another one gone. The tip of the cap, cause another one gone.
Each episode is about a different inspiring figure from history. Like this one about Claudette Colvin, a 15-year-old girl in Alabama who refused to give up her seat on the city bus 9 whole months before Rosa Parks did the same thing. Check it.
And if you get with me, Did you know, I wouldn't give up my seat. 9 months before Rosa, it was Claudette Goldman.
Get the kids in your life excited about history by tuning in to Historical Records. Because in order to make history, you have to make some noise. Listen to Historical Records on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What do you think makes relationships different that makes you feel that way as opposed to music?
Because
or anything else, any other achievement, not music.
Well, I've never been in a relationship the way that I've been in one with music because it's been like a 30-year relationship. So I have no idea what happens 30 years from now in a relationship. But I just feel like in a relationship is like all these other things I'm doing. There's so many like tentacles. Like it's like you go this way and then you guys explore that together. And you're exploring so many. It's basically anything I would explore in my life, I'm exploring with a partner. And so it's like figuring out, like you guys are like figuring out things together. And it's so cool when you have like a partner that like, I don't know, like I just get the feeling like it's awesome when you can have a partner that you look at and it's like the end of the day and you're like, oh, what did you do today? And they tell you and you're like, that's so tight. Like, and you're like, I want to do more. Like when you can feed off of each other and just keep growing together, it's like every day is a new experience and you guys are like facing different things together and it's, I don't know, it's cool. And I always tell my friend, I was just talking to my friend yesterday about this. I was like, you always have to keep your work and life balance. And I was like, because you can feel it in the music and art if you don't have love or you don't have something. So I always tell them, I always feel that it's just like this. I have like rules, like every day, like I only work till like a certain time. I make sure like cooking is very important to me and therapeutic. So I make sure I do that. Like it's like Xanax to me. Like I have like all my things that I have to do to make that balance because I do push myself. I shove my head through that wall, just that drywall if I had to. But at the same time, I try to do all the things. It's like, okay, like it's like every Sunday I see my mom no matter what, every single Sunday at the exact same time. It doesn't matter if I like stay up all night, I'll just go right into seeing her. And it's just like, we have like a ritual we do. And then I have like my ritual where I go and get my groceries at the farmer's market every weekend. And there's just all these things that help keep you on track and grounded so you can keep doing what you're doing, you know? I mean, I'm sure you have things like that for yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, mine's similar. I call my mom at the same time every week because she's back in London where I was born and raised. And so I have the same time I call her on the weekend. And there's certain things that have to be done that way. And same with you. And, I have a certain time as well that I switch off from work and I'm not looking at my phone. I have a time in the morning. I have like 3 hours of being awake before I'm doing any work. And I have to take that time for myself. But what's interesting about what you're saying is that there's a myth, obviously, that the broken-hearted artist can pour into the music, but you're actually saying that if you have love in your life, that can also be felt through music.
Yeah, I think that at times it's good to have a broken heart, but it's also good. There's a time and place for everything. What time you wake up?
I wake up now at 5:30 a.m.
What time do you wake up before?
Usually it was like this year has been different. This year I've been really prioritizing 5:30, but up until last year it's probably like 6 to 6:30.
And what time do you go to bed?
I go to bed at like 9 p.m. now.
Really?
Yeah, I love my 8 hours of sleep. So if I get into bed at 9, I'll be out by 9:15.
Okay.
And then if I wake up at 5:30, I've had like 8 hours and 15 minutes of sleep. Like it's
What
crazy.
are you doing? What are you doing in those first 3 hours?
Meditating for a lot of it. So I'll wake up at 5:30. I'll be ready to sit down for meditation by like 5:45. I'll meditate for an hour and a half. And then 7:15, I'll go for a hike or go to the gym usually a hike or the gym from 7:15 till about 8:15, 8:30, get ready. And then 9 a.m. I'll take my first emails, meetings, all that kind of stuff. So I think you came at 10 today. So
yeah. Hour and a half.
11.
Hour and a half that's a good meditation. Hour and a half. How do you even stay focused?
Well, I think it's a good question. And I always say to people that when I started, it wasn't 1.5 hours. Like you start up with doing like 7 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and then 40 minutes. And what I found was just in the same way as if you go to a trainer at the gym, you'd hope that they work out more than you. Yeah. So as someone who teaches meditation and helps people with mindfulness, I believe that as a trainer and as a coach, I have to do it for
Yeah.
more time and deeper time.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
otherwise, if I'm only doing it for 7 minutes and I'm mentoring you and you're only doing it for 7 minutes, then how will I ever have an experience to guide you
Yeah,
deeper?
yeah.
And so I've been doing that since I was 18 now. So it's been a long time. And when I was a monk for 3 years, it was longer. And that's where I got that deepest experience of practice for it. So I feel like if I didn't have those 3 years of going really deep into the practice, I may not have the focus I have today.
You were a monk?
For 3 years, yeah.
Like a
yeah.
real monk?
A real monk, yeah.
That's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
I've never met
I'll
a
have
monk.
to show you pictures.
I've never even met a monk.
Yeah, I'll have to
Wow.
show you. I'm not anymore, but yeah.
How
so,
long?
So you still haven't met a monk. but-
When was this?
So this was 2010 to 2013, and I was a monk across India, UK, and Europe. I traveled between the three, and I had a shaved head. I wore robes. I slept on the floor. We meditated for like 4 to 8 hours sometimes a day, and so it was a
Standard
deeper practice. Yeah,
Standard
yeah,
8 hours.
yeah,
Standard
yeah.
8-hour meditation is
Yeah,
crazy.
sometimes,
When
yeah.
do you do anything else?
Well, sometimes you didn't. That was the point. Like,
An 8-hour meditation is
sometimes,
wild.
yeah,
Isn't that
sometimes.
sleeping? Just
Yeah,
like-
yeah. I mean, you can count it as the same. That we sleep for 8 hours. So.
Yeah, the hardest part for me with meditating is that I instantly fall asleep.
That's good.
I can fall asleep very easily.
So I'll tell you why, though. The reason why that happens during meditation or any practice of that sort is your body and mind are finally coming into sync. And so it's your body saying, I need sleep right now.
Yeah.
And so if you're falling asleep during meditation, it's not a bad thing. It's just you've literally, because what's happening when you're not falling asleep is your mind saying, we got to do more.
Yeah,
We got to do more. And then finally, when you become present, you fall asleep because your body's saying, I've done enough today.
Oh.
So
Wait,
it's-
where do you do these meditate?
I have a little meditation room. I'll take you to it afterwards at our home. Yeah,
I
we have-
want to do a meditation with you.
All right, we'll do it. Yeah.
I want to learn. I've done it. There was like a time in my life when I was going through a rough patch, and then like, I was going to therapy and I was meditating and stuff, and it actually helped me so much.
Yeah, wow.
It helped me.
What
me a
was
lot.
that during? What were you going through?
When everything first started happening for me all at once, it was like really overwhelming. I was, for the first like year or two, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then like it really hit me because, so many different responsibilities and people asking you for money. And like, I just didn't grow up in a way like I didn't even imagine, I was young when I made it. So I was like, I didn't even realize about like money. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have this, what do I do with it? Like, and then it's like, I have all this success and people need things from me and people want, and it was just too much. And where I grew up, like, I didn't I didn't go to like therapy as a kid. I didn't know about any of that. I didn't know what anxiety was. I thought like I was like, oh, the room spins for everyone when you like sit down and you're like doing something. Yeah, there were so many things I didn't understand. And I thought it was just my body, and I never talked to anyone about it. And I was like, oh, there were just things like I learned to live with. And I remember I just remember exactly where I was. I was like walking in to get a new cell phone. I lost my mind, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I remember like a week later, I went home to Virginia where my mom was living at the time. And I remember I was like in the bathroom and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I had this feeling, like this crazy feeling of anxiety that was like crippling, and it was like I couldn't do anything. And I was just like, I was like in the bathtub, and I remember like calling for mom. I was crying, and I was like, I don't know, I can't do this. I don't know what to do. I can't even explain the feel. I didn't know how to articulate the words. I was like, I can't even explain what I'm feeling to you. I feel like I'm going crazy. And in my family, there's some people have some issues, and I was always scared of myself falling into some similar things that are in my family, that run in my family. And I just remember somebody got me to go to therapy, and I met this guy, and he's my therapist today, still to this day. He's been my therapist for almost 20 years. And I remember like I first went there and I had like all these things. I was like, I used to like go and I'd have to like hold my head like this. And I was like, well, I can't let go of my arm, because if I let go of my arm, my neck's going to fall off and I'm going to be paralyzed. Like I had like I was so in deep, and I never thought I was going to get out. And I remember I used to go 6 days a week, and then it was like 3 days a week. Then it was 2 days. Then it was one. And and it was CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's like kind of like a type of therapy where you use your words, and it's not. I didn't want to do medicine, and I didn't, because I also had in my family there's some drug abuse and stuff, and I was like, I don't want to do this with medicine. I want to figure out how to do it the right way. And at that time I wasn't. Now I'm like a workout fanatic. That's like my new meditation.
Nice.
But before that, I was like, well, how do I do this? And I started, my therapist recommended meditation to me, and he had this really easy way of doing it, and it was so easy, and it wasn't even like anything specific. He was like, just, he would just like, it was the most basic form of meditation. I would do it with either with a spoken word thing, or just like, he'd be like, find the most calming music you like. And he would just be like, no matter what, just every day, he was like, for 20 to 30 minutes, just sit down, put a pillow on your head, try not to be too comfy where you'll fall asleep, set a timer, and just do it. And I remember doing it, and at first it was impossible. When I was like in my shit, it was impossible. And then eventually I started like looking forward to that time every day.
Yeah.
And it really just helped me a lot. And then like in 2018, and then I got like, it was probably like a year or so of, and this was probably 2009, maybe this was happening. And then I like got back on track, and everything was great. And then in 2018, I really like working out became like my new meditation.
Oh, wow.
Like, and it was just like I have to do it. And it was so funny because I went so many years without doing it. And I'm sure in your life you went years without doing meditation. And now, like, what happens if you randomly do you ever miss one ever? Like, just like if you're sick,
I'll catch up. I won't. Yeah, I don't meditate at 5:30 every day. Like, it's not. I can't keep that up because I'm on planes. We're traveling.
Yeah.
Like our lifestyles don't allow it, and so I will be meditating in the evening.
But like, what happens?
The quality. Well, I find that for me, the quality dips. So the last week was one of those weeks. I had like 3 massively late nights in a row on the weekend because of events and parties and things that I was going to. And I couldn't wake up early. And then I still had a full day of work. And then in the evening, I was catching up with it. And I found that I didn't have the time and space that I need in order to feel really aligned. And what I mean by that is I can still operate. No one else will really notice the difference, but I notice the difference where I'm like, I feel like I have less energy today. I feel like I have less clarity today. And I feel like I'm not as aligned is the best word I can think of as I like to be. And so it doesn't really affect anyone else, but it does affect me. And I know what level I can raise to, which is what you're probably saying when you're working out. Like when you miss a day of working out, how do you feel now?
Yeah. I thought of something when you were saying.
Yeah, please.
So you're seen as like, this guy who's like mindfulness, health, this like aren't you sometimes, do you feel like I have to be so perfect all the time?
It's so interesting you say that, Benny. I used to think that when I started out that's what I had to be. And then I've let go of that pressure personally. Like I let go of that. And I'm just, like I'm saying to you now, I don't wake up every day at 5:45 to meditate. Sometimes I'm meditating on planes, in Ubers, on trains. Sometimes I'm doing it while I'm falling asleep. Like I'm okay with opening up about that because to me, that I hope, it's the truth. B, I hope that actually helps people realize that they don't have to have the perfect regime every single day because I used to think that and all I did was put more pressure on myself. Like I'd stress myself out. So I'm more comfortable today saying, I believe in meditation. I value mindfulness. I value all these things, but it doesn't look perfect in my life. And it won't in yours either. And it doesn't in anyone's. Whoever's life we think it looks perfect in is a myth.
Yeah, sometimes you get upset. Like if you get, like you're like a guy who's like not allowed to get upset. Like something happens. Like I find that sometimes.
What do you know, Benny? What are you trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. No, I find sometimes in work, like, when you get to the top of like your field, people are only expecting like a perfect like if you're like, say you're like LeBron James, like if you score like 20 instead of like 40 in the game, they're like, oh, what's happening to LeBron, you know? And it's this pressure that I know exists for people, and I just wanted to know.
Yeah, no, I definitely have felt that pressure, and I think I've removed it from myself. And that's what I realized, that ultimately it was a pressure I was putting on myself. It wasn't actually from anyone else. It was me thinking, whereas if I was just honest and transparent and authentic with people, then all of a sudden the pressure's off.
Yeah.
And I can also be a human because I am one.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much more of a joy in embracing our imperfections and flaws and recognizing that. It's even with coaching people, by the way, and I'm sure you feel this with music, like when you working with a artist to produce their album is like what I do with coaching clients. So coaching clients come to me and say, hey, can we solve this problem? Whatever else it may be. Someone's coming to you saying, hey, Benny, can you make this album with me? And before I used to think, God, if I don't say something profound in the first hour of meeting someone, then they're not going to think I'm worthy or valuable.
Yeah.
And I started to realize, I was like, that blocked me from saying something worthy.
Yeah.
It didn't allow me to be a channel or a vessel.
Yeah.
I was now forcing some manufactured version.
Yeah.
And even if I did, now I was just setting myself up for more pressure every time we met, rather than just having a flowing exchange with someone. How do you feel like when an artist comes and says, hey, Benny, I want you to produce my whole album? Where was the time it switched from pressure to just flow?
I never had pressure because I don't care.
Yeah.
Because I treat every experience, like I'll be like this. You know, some people, when you get in the studio, there's something, or you're on a TV set, or you're on here, they're just like, oh, we got to get it all done. We have to get this done today. We have to. For me, I'm just as happy if we were to come in. Like if I came into this podcast today and you're like, hey, I'm sorry, like the equipment's not working, then I'd be like, oh, let's just like chill, walk around your thing, because that's what was meant to happen that day. And I'm not stressing, because you know what? Eventually we'll get like an interview, or eventually we'll get a song, or, you know, I'm a big like procrastinator in work. Like when someone comes over, I'm like, you like to eat? What do you want to eat? You want to eat something? I'll eat something. All that stuff is part of it. It's part of what's going to happen later. You know what I'm saying? Or you like, let's say you have a client, someone like you're trying to get to the bottom or the root of a problem. You're going to have to disarm them and get them to chill.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not going to happen through anything else. What's your, do you have a setup process for every person, or do you really go with the flow with each individual?
This stuff got caffeine in it?
It has natural caffeine from tea.
I'll take a sip of it.
Yeah.
It's green tea. Green tea is really caffeinated, right?
Yeah, it's natural.
You drink caffeine?
I only in the tea form.
Only in the tea form.
Yeah.
I
So
like that.
I don't
only
drink
in
coffee.
the tea form.
As in, like, I drink herbal tea and I drink this tea, but I don't.
That's good.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. My wife and I put it together. It's all natural.
Go buy his drink. How'd you come up with the name?
It stands for just you and I. So it was a way of trying to bring people together through sharing a moment. How's the caffeine hitting? Is it all right?
I'm taking little
sips.
I don't drink caffeine at all.
Yeah. Neither do I, apart from tea. So
yeah, I don't drink. I'm not like a caffeine person. I wake up and I'm like ready to rip.
Me too.
I wake up, I like pop out of bed.
What time do you wake up?
Early.
Yeah?
Yeah, like 6. Usually 6:10 to 6:30.
Yeah. What gets you in the creative zone? Like you're always like cooking. Like let's talk about open wide for a second. Like creativity, I think people look at you and they think, oh, he's musically creative, but then the rest of his life must be.
Yeah.
But no, it's like you're creative in cooking, you're creative in music. Obviously, you're talking about relationships can be creative too. Like, is it just something that was cooking always a passion?
Yeah, it's just like, do you cook at all or no?
So I'm the exact opposite. Cooking, kitchens and cooking scares me. My wife is a plant-based chef and recipe developer.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah, this is all she does.
What has she always cooked?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
She's loved it since she was, and she's a dietitian and nutritionist as well.
What's her name?
Radhi. Radhi's her name. Radhi. Radhi.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to see it. I'm obsessed with all that. One of my friends, the person who I wrote my book with, her name's Jess. She has she's predominantly like a plant-based chef, and she worked for Martha Stewart for years.
Wow.
And she's incredible. And I it's funny, like my books are always crazy. I eat very healthy unless I'm being like a naughty boy.
What's naughty? How bad's naughty?
Oh, naughty is like you wake up and there's crumbs and glaze all over you. You don't even know what it is. But mostly I'm like during during the week, you know, because I lost a lot of weight. I lost like 50 pounds.
Wow. Consciously.
Yes. Yeah. Now, you know, honestly, at the beginning, I was going into a weight loss challenge because my brother had gained a bunch of weight. And then when I went and we like did the DEXA scan thing, I was 33% body fat. And I was like, well, am I fat? And I just didn't even know that I was being unhealthy. And then like, that's when I started working out and I got obsessed with it. And it was like, I wasn't necessarily trying to lose weight, but then like once I did, I was like, whoa, this is cool. And I'm one of those people now, like when I lost the first weight, it wasn't trying to lose weight. It was just like trying to be healthy. And then I felt like the feeling every time I went to the gym. I was like, whoa, I have no anxiety. Like after, and I'm not thinking about anything else except like what's happening. And that was very rare for me. So I was like, I got to chase this feeling. And then now I like, you know, me and my friends, we do like little like weight loss challenges. We're like, okay, whoever can lose the most weight in like 1 month or whoever can do this. I like to challenge my body and
out of your
mind.
comfort zone.
Yeah, I like to just like push myself in any way possible. But yeah, no, I do you eat pretty healthy?
Yeah, very, yeah.
Well, because of her, right?
Because of her.
If
exactly,
otherwise
yeah.
you'd be like,
Before I met her, it was like pizzas at midnight, burgers, fries. Like that's my favorite food.
What are you guys eating today?
Obviously,
like, what'd you eat today?
What did I have in the morning? I had like avocado, mushroom toast in the morning.
And did you make it or she did?
No, she did. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So if she's not in town, do you
then
ever
I'm
cook?
I'm ordering in, but I'm ordering healthy.
You're ordering healthy because you're scared she might be filming you.
No,
or watching.
yeah, exactly. That's actually it. I'll say to my team, I'll be like, guys, just so you know, let's order this because my wife's not around. Yeah, no.
Yeah. You'll be a little nod.
She's been a good influence on me because before I met her, I was addicted to sugar. Like I was addicted to chocolates and
some
ice
people
creams
have that.
I had a massive because of my mom.
Yeah, I don't have the sweet tooth.
That's lucky, man. That's one of the
I'd much
worst.
rather like a huge slice of bread or a taco.
Yeah.
Like I really like one bite of a dessert. Like I always want.
You're like my wife. That's
I always want one bite. Like at the end of the day, like I'll always have like a date or something or like a piece of fruit. Like I love that, but like I don't like I don't know, like occasionally like a cookie or something if it's not too sweet. I don't like really sweet things. They make my stomach hurt.
Right.
So I like, there's a few, like I like, what's that thing when it's like meringue, pavlova.
Right.
Because it's not too sweet and it's like light. Pavlova makes me.
How did you curb your cravings for things you love? Like when you're doing a challenge, how do you curb your cravings?
I just shut it off. I love a challenge.
Right.
Just any challenge. If someone's like, I bet you can't walk 25 miles right now. I'm like, yes, I can. And I'll do it. Like, I love that feeling of doing something.
And you have a group of people that you do.
And I do it with my friends.
Yeah.
I work out with my friends. If I didn't have a trainer, I only pay. The only reason I see a trainer is because I'm so crazy that would be like, oh, I can't waste the money. Like, so I gotta go. But if it was just up to me, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to do it. It's just that someone's, or my friends are like, let's go to the gym. We got to go together and we work out together. And I like, coming back to food, I like anything. I love community. I love hosting. I love like, there's nothing better to me than like creating like an experience for people. I don't care what the medium is, like creating some experience where like when someone leaves, they're just like, whoa. And they're telling all their friends. And like, for me, it's just like this is like, looking to give someone an orgasm face at all times, like every moment, like it, because that's what it is. It's when someone tastes your food, they just like open their mouth and they put it in. You just want them to be like, like you just want that feeling that when someone plays a song, you want them to be like, oh my God, that thing is crazy. Like after you like change someone's life and they can do a meditation where they can like put their leg behind their head. They're just like, oh, thank you. You brought me to a higher sense of being. Like it's that's what we're looking for.
Yes.
And I'm always looking to make my friends happy. I'm always, if someone comes to my house and they have like, a hamburger and they're like, I love this. This is my favorite hamburger. I know that. So then I'm thinking like the next time they come, I'm like, oh, I'm going to like make sure they have that for them. And my grandma, when I was a kid, one of my grandmas, she was not wealthy by any means. She grew up in her place was in Section 8 housing, and we would go visit her. And she had a lot of grandkids, and if we went over there and one time we like had a Junie and we were like, we love this, it would be there every time we ever went. And she had so many grandkids. So everyone had every single thing. And she would, she wouldn't eat for the week to make sure that like everyone had their things. And because it made her so happy, the joy she would have when everyone was coming in and all the things were there. We'd be like, oh, she has this and that's what I like to do. And I love to create like, whether it's like the perfect napkin, the perfect like meal, the perfect music playing at the same time, like, and that's what I did with this book. I was like trying to teach people how to have like the perfect dinner party.
That's brilliant.
Because I was like, okay, some people, they might not know what to do. Like you're nervous in the kitchen. This book is going to make it so like surefire way. You want something easy that looks good? Great. You want to have a dinner party? Like, do you know what type of wine to serve? I don't know. Do you want to smoke weed with your people? Does weed make you anxious? Who knows? Is it midnight and you want everyone to leave because you got to wake up at 5:30 the next day, but you still want them to love you? I'm going to teach you how to kick them out, And it's just like,
I love that.
It's that whole thing. And it's just like that moment of just like getting a bunch of people together. And I love getting the people together that don't necessarily go together.
Yeah.
And it's like someone is like a musician and they're sitting next to a man who wrote a book. And I mean, one time we were at my house and I remember I was, my mother was sitting here and SZA was sitting here and a man on the other side actually makes rocket ships that go to space. And to me, it was just so cool to see them all talking and not caring about, what was going on. And there was no egos and everyone's just having a good time. And food is like the best social lubricant in the world because it's like you can immediately talk about something. You're like, oh, you like food? It's just like the automatic conversation starter.
Yeah. Next time you come over, we're going to have to do food for sure because it's a big love language for my wife. That's her love language.
I want to cook with her.
You guys would have a blast. She loves cooking, creating recipes, and also same as you, creating community. And it's actually funny you say that. I'm trying to think of a book that you just reminded me of that was based on a restaurant that did that. And they recently converted it. It became 11 Madison Park in New York. And it was a restaurant that tried to give that level of care that you feel in a home.
Yeah.
And so Open Wide, your book, I love that it's not just a cookbook. I love that it's about how to build community. And
all of that.
Because I think that's what people miss out on, right? We think that hosting is about all the fancy stuff. And it's like, it isn't.
What's up, y'all? This is Questlove, and at QLS I get to hang out with my friends, Sugar Steve, Laia, Fontigolo, Unpaid Bill, and we, at Questlove Supreme like to nerd out and do deep dives with musicians and actors and politicians and journalists.
We give you the stories behind all your favorite artists and creatives that you have never heard. I'm talking about stories behind their life journeys and their works of art.
I love QLS because of the QLS Team Supreme. They're like a second family to me.
If you're a fan of deep diving into music, everything, almanacking your musical history, and learning things about hip-hop artists and things you never thought, then you're a lot like me. But you're also a fan of Questlove Supreme.
One of the things I love the most about this show is that we get to learn from the masters. I look at being on this show as my graduate program in music.
Listen to Questlove Supreme on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Suprema!
In a galaxy far, far away.
No, babe, that's taken. We're in our own world, remember?
Right. In our own world, we're two space cadets.
And totally normal humans.
Sure, totally normal humans.
Embark on a journey across the stars, discovering the wonders of the universe, one episode at a time.
We'll talk about life, love, laughter, and why you should never argue with your co-pilot.
Especially when she's always right.
Right. And if we hit turbulence, just blame it on Mercury retrograde.
Or Emily's questionable space piloting skills.
Hey! Join us on In Our Own World for cosmic conversations, stellar laughs,
and super corny dad jokes.
Listen to In Our Own World as a part of the My Cultura podcast network, available on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't worry, we promise to avoid any black holes.
Most of the time.
Hey friends, I'm Jessica Capshaw.
And this is Camilla Luddington.
And we have a new podcast, Call It What It Is. You may know us from Graceland Memorial, but did you know that we are actually besties in real life?
And as all besties do, we navigate the highs and lows of life together.
And what does that look like? 1,000 pep talks, 1,000,000 I've got yous, some very urgent I'm coming overs. Because, I don't know, let's face it, life can get even crazier than a season finale of Grey's Anatomy.
And now here we are, opening up the friendship circle. To you.
Someone's cheating?
We've got you on that.
In-laws are in line?
Let's get into it.
Toxic friendship?
Air it out.
We're on your side to help you with your concerns. Talk about ours, and every once in a while, bring on an awesome guest to get their take on the things that you bring us.
While we may be unlicensed to advise, we're going to do it anyway.
Listen to Call It What It Is on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's not about any of that. The food, you know, my godfather always said this thing. He would always say, you know, when I was a kid, I never even understood it, but I so understand it now. He always used to say, we'd always figure out where we were going to dinner. And he goes, it doesn't matter. It's about the wrap.
Yeah.
And we were like, what do you mean? He's like, it's just about the wrap. He's like, the only thing, it's just to get everyone together. If the food's great, that's awesome. But it's about hanging with your friends, laughing till you cry, you know, falling in love with someone. You know, I've had the opportunity to have dinners where like so many things have happened to people. You know, someone's found the person they date. Somebody's, you know, started a company. Somebody's laughed so hard they cry, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I love, do you have dinners with people? And
well, it's one of my favorite things to host as well. Yeah.
It's my favorite thing to do. I don't want to go out to a nightclub. I want to like sit at home with my friends till 2 a.m. Well, for you can't do that.
I can do that.
Now, what happens? What happens if you stay up late? Do you just self-combust? You combust?
No, not at all, man. I can stay up late. I just choose not to always do it because I love sleep.
Okay, when you were out late this weekend, what time were you out?
Yeah, probably getting to bed around 1 or 2.
Okay, and then what time do you sleep till?
Oh no, the problem was I was still waking up because my body clock's so wired that I was still up at the same time.
No matter what, I wake up at like 6 a.m.
That's what
no
I
matter
mean,
when I go to bed.
Yeah.
I don't go to bed as early as you though.
Yeah.
I'm like if in my dream world I go to bed at like 11:30, 12.
Right.
And then I wake up at like
in real world
6:30. And then on the weekends I really don't sleep a lot. But I don't need a ton of sleep. But
That's
I know
good,
I'm sure you're gonna say that's terrible for you.
No, not at all, man. I'm not gonna say anything's terrible. If it works for you, it works for you.
But I should be getting more sleep, right?
I mean, scientists say 7 to 9 hours a day.
What else do scientists say?
Exactly. I don't know. But that's what I'm saying.
My whole
I
family.
need 8. I know I need 8, and I can survive I can do fine on 6 or 5 if I needed to.
Like
but
6.5 is my like.
Is your sweet spot?
Yeah, chef's kiss. Anything over 7, I feel strange.
That's good though, but then don't follow it. 7, like don't push it. I think that's a big part of it too, right? It's like my wife talks a lot about this idea of being able to listen to your body. And I feel like so many of us are like, God, I got to wake up at 5:30 now because Jay said he wakes up at 5:30, or I got to wake up at 4 because Elon Musk wakes up at 4, or, you know, Benny said he wakes up at 6:10. So, so whatever it is. And it's like, well, creativity is not based on those things. That's just what works for your body and your mind. It's what works for my body and my mind. So I think, you know, but you seem to have a lot of like, not just community, but you seem to have like a lot of the same people around you, loyal friends. Like that seems to be a big part of your, how have you continued to be able to build that as you grow and make it sounds like all your friends love challenges and growth, because a lot of people who are listening sometimes feel their friends are not wanting to grow. They're not wanting to try new things.
But it's so fun. You do it. Some people I've pushed to that, and some people have pushed me in other ways. And like that's what it's all about. You know, to me, I've just had some of my friends for so long because it's hard to find people that are on your, and I think it's harder and harder as you get older. You know, a lot of my friends, most of my friends I knew since I was young. And then I have like, you know, like a new friend for me is like 5 years. Like I'd be like, whoa, yeah, this is like one of my new friends. Like most of my friends are 8, 10, 20.
And do they live in the city too or no?
All different places. Some of my friends are like, some of my friends have very regular jobs and you know, some of them I only get to see once or twice a year in person because of their job. You know, my friend was just out here. He comes every year for, like a month and a half towards the end of the year, because he's a therapist and he works, in Virginia, and he can't really travel that much. So then we get to see each other then. And then, my other friend, his wife is becoming a doctor, and they've had to have residencies in all these other places, and he works for like Capital One or something, and we don't get to see each other in person very often, but when we do, it's like we saw each other yesterday, and we talk all the time on and then some of my friends are in the same world as me, so they get it. Some of them are in entertainment, and I just love bringing. My friend group is very eclectic. Like, it's like all different types of people. And I love putting people that wouldn't normally be in a room together in a room to see what happens.
What's the randomest too? Is it the person building rocket ships and then your mom and then Scissor?
It's just like people, it's very common for me to go out to dinner and have like one person be 22 and then the next person be like 70.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not,
awesome.
and having it not be someone's mom or dad, like having it just be someone that's my friend.
Yeah.
And because I've met so many, I'm very interested in people, and I love meeting creative people, whether that means they're creative professionally, whether creative in their mind, whether they,
Yeah.
I love that feeling of getting into a conversation with someone.
Yeah. I also think multi-generational friendships are so powerful. Like, I was talking to someone about that. Like, me and my wife have a couple friend of ours, and they're in their late 60s. And they're some of our favorite people to hang out with.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I learn so much, I grow so much, I gain so much perspective. They've lived 30 years more life than I have.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's so interesting how we may spend time with our parents, but we're not necessarily having friends that are in a different decade of their life.
Yeah.
But how powerful it can be to be with someone.
A lot of people don't even know their parents like that. Like,
Yeah.
even if you're like close with your parent, like how close are you with your mom?
I'm pretty close with my mom, yeah.
Okay. But like, you don't know. There's so many things you don't know about her. Like, you don't know like how she felt the first time she got her heart broken.
Yeah.
You don't know like if she ever cheated on someone. Like, you don't like,
Yeah.
sometimes I'll sit my mom down and I just ask her like I'm like, what drugs have you taken?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did it make you feel? Because my parents got divorced. I was like, how did you know you wanted to get divorced? What did you feel? And I try to do that because one of my friends started recording his dad when his dad got sick, and he asked him every question he ever wanted to ask him, because it is so crazy. You're so close to this person that you really don't know. Like, we really don't even know our parents that well, because you don't ask them those type of things, and no one does. Like, and it's also that time where I remember, like, your parents' gospel is just like the end all be all when you're a kid, and then all of a sudden you're like 15 or 16, you're like, wait, you're just a human. That was a mess up on you. You just lied. Like, I caught you in that lie. But like, until you're like 15 or 16 or something, you can't even fathom that. And then like, you realize it's cool. I'm so thankful that I get to like, talk to my parents and my family now, like as an adult, and be like, yo, what were you feeling like when you went through this? And like, how did you raise us like that? And is it so hard to do this? And it's cool. I like that feeling.
Yeah, I did something similar. A few years ago, I felt that way with the podcast, where I was like learning about people I'd never met. And so we were celebrating my sister's 30th birthday. So it was me, my mom, and my sister, my younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started interviewing my mom at dinner. And we didn't record it. It was just us three. And I learned so much. So my mom was studying for her exams because she was born and raised in Yemen, while there were Yemeni soldiers fighting British soldiers on her roof.
That's
like, studying. And I was like, I had no idea. And she just casually drops that as if it's like normal. And I'm like, Mom, you realize that's not normal. Like,
you should interview your mom. You need to interview.
I've been thinking about it. It's been on my mind.
Interviewing your family is so crazy.
Yeah, because you're right. And I think I would love to do it because I want everyone to do it. My wife was my first ever guest on the show.
Really?
Yeah, because that was a big part of it for me. It was like, I feel like you're so right. We don't really deeply know our family when we think we know them.
Yeah.
We think we know them. We assume that we know them.
Yeah, I used to do this thing on my, I still do it on all of my albums, where like the last song on my album has like a spoken word section of, it's like over instrumental of each person in my family. And so far I did my mom and my dad, and I asked them all these questions.
Wow.
And it's crazy to know because I asked them questions for like an hour, and then I take like the best like 30 seconds. And it was both my parents wound up talking the most about like their divorce, and it was like so interesting to see both sides of it, because I have now forever in time I have my mom's version and my dad's version, and then like I'm putting out a new album, and I interview my brother for his version of it now, and it's like
that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's really special.
It's fun, and it's like it's emotional, and it's like, whoa, it's cool to hear both sides of everyone's side of an event.
I think you're so right, because we often think there's only one truth and one story, and then all of a sudden there's three. And what was the biggest thing you learned from hearing your mom and dad's version of divorce? Like, what was something that surprised you, or something you were like, wow, I did not recognize that when I was growing up?
I think that it made them both better people to get out of the relationship. And I think like at first it seemed like my parents were not fans of each other at first. It was like crazy. But now they're friends. I mean, they haven't been married for, 20 something years. But yeah, now we all like go to dinner together and like go on vacation. But it wasn't always that way. And it's cool to see like where it started to where it is now. And I do think like me and my brother like were a big like our success was like a big catalyst on getting like everyone together, because it forced us to get together. And then it's cool. I don't know. Life is so crazy. Like the way you meet people and the way people come in and out of your life, and someone you may not even like really know could become like your wife, or someone like that's like you despise could become your best friend. And it's very interesting how life plays out. Yeah. And I find that more and more as I get older. And my mom always used to be like, she'd be like, when you get older, you're gonna, and I used to be like, what are you talking? But it's so true. Just like over and over again, I'm learning something new every day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true, man. Benny, I could talk to you for hours. Genuinely. Like, we could go on and on and on, but I wanted to make sure, is there anything that we haven't talked about before we go to the final five, which is the way we end any interviews? Is there anything we haven't talked about that you really wanted to touch on that's on your heart or mind, or something that...
What's your 5 thing? What's that?
We can do that. We'll start with that. It's a final 5 that we end every interview with of all time.
Oh, it's the same question?
It's the same 4 questions. One of them I usually play with. Same 3 or 4 questions.
Oh, okay.
And one of them I usually play with for the person. And these are your final 5. They have to be answered in 1 word to 1 sentence maximum.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then I may ask you to go on, because I usually break my rule. But
okay.
Here we go. All right. Benny Blanco, these are your final 5. So the first question is, what is the best advice you've ever heard or received?
Don't be afraid to fail.
Who told you it, and how have you practiced it?
I can't remember who told me it, but
someone did tell you it.
Yeah,
it wasn't something that came
No. Somebody told me it, but I will tell you this. I always say this to someone, because people come up to me all the time and they're just like, "Oh man, you don't miss. You did this. You did that." Yeah. And I'll talk to someone. One of my friends was going through a hard time recently. It was like his first failures, and I remember talking to him, and I said, "You don't think I've failed a million times?" I said, "You look at someone like Michael Jordan, okay? He's taken like so many shots. He's missed so many shots. Do you remember any of those? No. You remember him swishing it and walking back with his tongue out. Nobody's sitting there being like, Jay, I saw that, back in like 2008, that rap career didn't really work out for you." No, they're like, "Jay, wow, you got Michelle Obama on you." So I always tell people, like, it doesn't matter. Don't be afraid to fail. Nobody's even going to remember it. And if someone's literally tallying your failures, they're psycho.
Well said, man. Yeah, no one remembers the misses. No one remembers the misses. If you keep going.
Yeah,
if you stop at the miss.
But you got to keep going, baby.
You got to keep going. Question number 2, what is the worst advice you've ever heard or received?
I was going around playing my music for people, and I had just switched my style up. Because I used to originally made music that sounded like I was copying Timbaland, sounded like I was copying Pharrell, sounded like I was trying to be someone else. And I remember I had just made music that didn't sound like anything. It sounded so weird. It was so different. Wasn't like what was going on. I remember I went into a meeting and someone was like, nobody makes music like this. They're like, you gotta fit in more. Like, and that just like made me go the opposite way. Then I was like, now I know I got to do the crazy stuff, because at least I just want someone, when I used to go in and play music, for them to be like, I've never heard anything like this. Like, this is so weird. This is not going to work. Because that's when everyone likes something, usually that means it's not going to work. You know, when some people are unsure about something, that's when it's usually going to work. So I don't know. Someone told me to fit in more, and I didn't really vibe with that.
That's a great answer. I think it's so interesting. When you're young, everyone tells you to fit in, and when you get older, everyone says stand out.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a minute. I had to wear uniform. I had to come in on time, and now all of a sudden, I've got to find who I am.
Yeah.
And it's such a contradiction.
Of course.
Yeah. So great answer. All right. Question number 3: what's something that you used to value that you no longer value?
Success. I used to really care about getting that number one song, getting that thing, and I feel like I did everything I wanted to do. Like, and now I feel like everything's like the cherry on top of the sundae now. So I'm just having so much fun trying new things. And of course I want them to be successful and stuff, but like I do still like work and have a drive and want to do it, but I want to do it more for me and less for like other people. I used to want to do it because I was like, I have to be number one. I have to be the best in the world. I have to be this. And now I just get to wake up and I'm like, okay, I already did the things I want to do. So like, I want to make a cookbook. I want to do it. I want to do this. And I like really want it to be the best and I want it to be awesome, but it's something that I want to do. And I'm putting like that pressure on myself. It's not like for other people anymore. And yeah, I think, I don't know. And I always had a strange feeling with success too. I was always like kind of like ashamed of it for some reason. Or I'd be like, oh, I don't deserve that. I'm probably gonna get like cancer now because like I did well. So like I don't deserve this, and like somebody else deserves this more. And like,
how did you overcome that doubt? Because I think a lot of people feel that way. People who come into money, fame, even a bit of success, and we start going, "Oh crap, this wasn't meant to be."
Yeah,
like,
it's still there for me. That part, I still have that feeling a little bit of the imposter syndrome. But it's so funny because I'm so confident at the same time. But you know, sometimes I do have that feeling where I'm just like, like, why do I deserve this? Like, what did I do? And like, there's so many more people who are more talented and I'll like start questioning stuff like that in my head.
Yeah, and you're still working through that.
Every day we're working through everything. And the success thing, like, it's not fully let go, but it's like, it's something that like, I catch myself more and more like just really wanting to do the things because like, it's not a competition always anymore. And it used to be like such a competition with me in my head.
Yeah.
With that. And I try to find like other things that are competitions and like competitions like that are like friendly and there's not like a huge thing at the end of the tunnel for it.
Beautiful. Question number 4. What's something that you think you learned from your parents' relationship that affects your relationships moving forwards? Like something that you'll take as a lesson, what to do or what not to do?
I don't think my parents listened to each other. And I think all relationships, whether it's romantic, business, friendships, you just have to listen to each other. It's like the easiest thing in the world. Just be a listener, and it's okay to be wrong. I like that's also another thing that like I've really come to terms with. Like, it's like I always would find myself like wanting to be right about the thing, wanting to be this, and it almost makes you look better if you're like, you know what, I was wrong, and stop trying to like defend a thing to the end that you know you're wrong about. So it's like I was wrong, And then like everyone's happy. If you're like, I was wrong, I messed up. I messed up, instead of like trying, it's like putting shame around being wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. Like it's okay to fuck up sometimes. Like, you know,
I think that's great. Listen, and it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah, it's okay to be wrong.
Fifth and final question, Benny. We ask this to every guest who's ever been on the show. If you could create one law that everyone in the world had to follow, what would it be?
You know, I wish there was a world where just everyone could find a way to just like fit in and just like not be. It's okay to get upset sometimes. I just wish people could talk things out and find a way to like love each other and find a way to like live together. You know, it just like killed me. Like anytime, it's so hard for me to ever watch any of the news. And it's just like, oh, I'm like, it just like crushes me watching people fight and people like violence. And it's like crazy. Like, I don't understand. I just like don't even understand. I don't know people, you know, to like, for someone to do something so bad to like an innocent like anytime I see things like that, I just don't understand. And in my ideal world, I don't even know if it's a law. People just be nice to each other and just be like caring and considerate and understand that it's okay to not be the same as somebody else. And it's okay to not have the exact same opinion as somebody else, but you guys can coexist and live. And just like, I don't know. It's like I always have these like idealistic thoughts in my head, and it's very hard to create those because we're so far gone as a planet. You know, there's like so much greed and there's so much, I don't know. I've always been like just like happy, whether it was like I had a lot of money or no money. And I've always found that when me and my friends listen to each other and work together and talk things out, like nothing can go wrong. And if it does go wrong, then you talk about it and you make it better. And I don't know. What's the best law you heard someone say?
Oh, that's a good question. I think a lot of people share the sentiment that you're saying. Like, I think a lot of us feel like that. Like, we want to live in a more just, happier, loving kind of world. I think two that stand out to me, Daniel Kaluuya came on. He's the guy, you know. So Daniel came on and he said that for everyone that